Do you forget words when you speak English? Don't worry, many people have this problem.
Most times this happens because you still translate in your head. I know that very well.
You understand the question. You have an answer. But then something happens in your mind.
Exactly. First, I think in my own language. Then I try to change everything into English.
And that takes time.
Yes, and often I am then too slow.
So, hello, dear listeners, and welcome to a new episode of our podcast for learning English. Great that you are here again.
Today we talk about a topic many learners know.
It is about how you can speak English without translating first. And I promise you one thing, if you learn to speak without translating, you will speak almost fluently. You must trust your mouth.
I think almost everyone does this at the start. You want to say something, but the mind works in two languages.
And that is the problem. Imagine you are in a talk. You hear a question in English. You understand it. But your answer comes first in your mother tongue.
And then the translating begins.
You search for words, you build a sentence, and you think a lot.
In the end, you feel unsure or too slow.
Exactly. Daily talks are fast. If you think too long, it is hard to answer.
I know this very well. At first I spoke like that. I always wanted perfect sentences.
And that was tiring, right?
Yes, very. Sometimes I even forgot what I wanted to say.
That is a very typical experience.
And that is why this topic is so important.
If you can speak without translating, you will be much faster and safer.
And it feels much more natural.
Right, and that is our goal today. We show you step by step how to think in English.
And we have a clear plan for this episode.
First, we look at why translating in the head is a problem.
After that, we show you simple methods to speak without translating.
And at the end, you get practical tips you can use every day.
If you listen until the end, you will notice that your English already changes.
You will speak faster and feel surer.
And you are a big step closer to fluent English.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Great. Then let us start together now. Before we talk about speaking without translating, we need to answer one big question. Why is translating a problem?
Yes, many people think that translating is normal.
Exactly. At the start, it is true. Almost everyone does it. But with time, it becomes a real block.
I remember a typical moment very well. Maybe you know it too. I was once in a cafe and the server asked me, "Would you like anything else?" I understood the question at once.
That sounds good.
Yes, but then came the problem. My brain started to work. I thought, no, I don't want anything else. But in English, I was not sure.
What did you think?
I asked myself, should I say I don't want anything else? Or I would like nothing else? And in that moment, I felt I was too slow.
Exactly, this happens to many learners, and maybe it happens to you right now.
Yes, you suddenly notice, my mind is too slow.
Exactly, and that comes from the process in your head. There are many steps. First, you hear English, then you think in your mother tongue. After that, you translate everything into English, and only then do you speak.
That is a lot of steps.
Yes, and every step costs time. And in a real talk, you often do not have this time.
The other person waits.
Exactly. And then pressure comes. You think, I must answer fast.
And then I get nervous.
Right, and when you get nervous, your English often gets worse.
I know that very well. The more I think, the harder it gets.
That is a very important point. Translating makes you slow and unsure at the same time.
That is a bad combination.
Absolutely, and many learners believe they must speak perfectly. That is why they think so long.
Yes, you do not want to make a mistake.
Exactly. But that is the mistake. Communication is not perfect. Communication is quick and simple.
I understood that only later.
Many people have this experience. Imagine a normal situation. You are at work. A colleague asks you, "What are you doing at the weekend?"
A simple question.
Exactly. You understand it at once, but then the problem starts.
I think, I will meet my friends.
And then you search for words.
Yes. Meet. Friends. Weekend.
And while you search, the talk moves on.
And I am not finished yet.
Exactly. And that feels uncomfortable.
That has really happened to me many times.
And that is why it is so important to stop this process. You do not need to translate.
So think and speak directly.
Exactly. Fewer steps in the head, more feeling for the language.
That sounds much easier.
And that is exactly what we show you in the next part. Before we move on, I want to share something with you that can be a real game changer. Many people search for the perfect method, the best app, or clever tricks. But very simple rules often make the biggest difference.
That sounds exciting. So, things that really work.
Exactly. If you understand and use these rules, your English will sound more natural at once, and you will notice that you translate less.
Okay, I'm curious. What is the first rule?
The first rule is speak slowly. Many learners think they must talk fast to sound good, but the truth is the opposite. When you speak slowly, you have more time to think. Your sentences become clearer and you make fewer mistakes.
That is interesting. I always thought fast speech is better.
No, especially at the start, speaking slowly is much more effective. It helps your brain to process the language.
And what is the second rule?
The second rule is use simple sentences. You do not need to build complex lines. A sentence like, "I work today" is perfect. Or, "I meet a friend." That is fully enough.
That really takes away pressure.
Exactly. Many learners try hard structures too early, but simple sentences are the key to natural speech.
And the third rule?
Mistakes are okay. This is one of the most important rules. You will make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, but mistakes show that you are learning.
That is calming.
Yes. If you make no mistakes, you probably speak too little, and mistakes help you improve.
I think many people fear that.
That is true. So, here is the next rule. You do not need to be perfect. Perfection is not the goal. Communication is the goal.
So better speak than wait.
Exactly. Do not wait for the perfect moment. It often never comes.
And what is the last rule?
Speak actively. This may be the most important rule. Do not only listen. Do not only read. Speak. Say sentences aloud. Answer questions. Practice a bit every day.
Even when you are alone.
Especially then, you can talk to yourself, describe things, or repeat sentences.
That sounds really doable.
If you use these 5 rules, your English will change quickly. You will speak faster, safer, and more naturally.
That really sounds like a game changer.
That is exactly what it is. Now we reach the most important point of our episode. How can you think in English without translating all the time? Many learners believe that this is very hard, but in truth, you can learn it step by step.
That really interests me. Thinking in English always sounds a bit hard to me.
Many people think that, but it starts very easy. You do not need full sentences at once. You can start with single words.
So very small steps.
Exactly. Imagine you are in your room. You can start naming things in English. You see a table and think, table. You see a window and think, window.
That really sounds doable.
Yes, and this is exactly how it starts. First comes single words, then comes small sentences. For example, this is a table, or the window is open.
So step by step.
Exactly. Your brain slowly gets used to the language, and that is very important.
Can you do that outside too?
Definitely. When you're out, you can describe your surroundings. You see a car and think, that is a car. You see many people and think, there are many people.
That is like a small game.
Exactly. And you can play this game everywhere, on the bus, in the park, or on your way to work.
I think that really helps.
Yes, and you can go even further. You can think about your day. For example, I'm going to work now. Or, I am buying something now.
I already do that sometimes.
Perfect. That is exactly the right way. You can also say, I am drinking a coffee. Or, I opened the window.
Those are very normal everyday sentences.
Exactly. And these are the sentences you need in real life.
What if I don't know a word?
Good question. Then just stay with what you know. You do not need to say everything perfectly. You can use simple words.
So, do not stop and translate.
Exactly. Try to stay in English, even if it is simple.
I see that this removes a lot of pressure.
Absolutely. You train your brain to think directly in English, without the detour through your mother tongue.
And that makes speaking faster.
Exactly, and more natural.
Do you have another example?
Sure. Imagine you're in the supermarket. You can think, I need milk, or I buy bread, or that is expensive.
Those are sentences you really need.
Exactly. And if you do that every day, it becomes automatic.
So, first words, then sentences, then conversations.
Perfect summary.
I think really everyone can do that.
Absolutely, you do not need a teacher for it. Just a bit of practice each day.
That is very motivating.
And this is exactly how you learn to speak, without translating. Now we reach a very important point. If you want to stop translating, you need simple sentences. Many learners try to speak too complicated.
Yes, I know that. You want to say everything perfectly.
Right. You often think in long, hard sentences in your own language. Then you try to copy this sentence into English.
And most times that does not work well.
True, it becomes slow and often wrong. So the solution is easy. Use short, clear structures.
What exactly do you mean by short structures?
For example, simple standard lines you can use again and again. Lines like I go, I do, I want, I have.
So small building blocks.
Exactly. These blocks help you speak fast. You do not need to think long.
Can you give an example?
Sure, you want to say, I have no time today because I must finish many things.
That is already a complicated sentence.
Exactly. Many learners try to translate it directly. Easier is, I have no time today. I have much to do.
That is much easier.
And it is just as clear. The other person understands you at once.
That is a big difference.
One more example. Complicated would be, I am thinking about visiting my friends at the weekend.
And simple?
I might see my friends at the weekend.
That sounds much more natural.
Right, simple sentences are not worse. They are better for communication.
I think many people believe simple lines are not good enough.
That is a big mistake. Native speakers also use many simple sentences every day.
True.
And now an important point, repetition. When you use these easy sentences, often they become automatic.
So always the same structures again and again.
Exactly. For example, each day say, I go to work. I make a coffee. I meet a friend.
These are typical daily sentences.
Yes, and these are the lines you need.
I feel that speaking becomes much easier.
Absolutely, you do not need to translate anymore. You just use structures you already know.
That gives confidence.
Exactly. With time, your sentences will grow longer automatically. Before we continue, I want to talk about a method many people underrate: reading in English.
Really? I'm not sure. Reading feels passive to me. How can it help my speaking?
Good question. Many people think like that. But reading is far more active than you think.
Okay. Tell me.
When you read, you see many sentences again and again. Your brain learns how English works.
But I don't speak while reading.
True. Yet your brain stores the patterns. Later, when speaking, you can use them.
So, like a store in my head?
Exactly. Imagine you often read, I have no time. Soon you stop thinking. You just say it.
I know that. Sometimes a line just slips out.
That is the effect. You stop translating. You simply speak.
But I have a problem. Many texts are too hard. Then I understand little and lose drive.
That is a key point. You need the right texts.
So, easy texts?
Exactly. Short, clear lines from daily life. Things you can really use.
For example,
I order a coffee, or I go shopping, or I have much to do today.
okay, those are real sentences.
Right, if you read such lines often, you can later say them without thinking.
But do you just read them once?
No, read them aloud. Repeat them. Copy them.
Ah, then you train speaking directly.
Exactly. Reading turns into active practice.
I see now. I did it wrong until now.
Many people do. That is why progress feels slow.
Yes, I often read, but never spoke.
That is the difference.
Okay, where can we find such good texts?
I made an e-book exactly for that.
Ah, now I get it.
In this e-book, you find many daily scenes in English. Talks in a cafe, in a shop, at work.
So, the exact situations we really need?
Exactly. No theory, no hard texts, just real simple talks.
That sounds far more helpful than a normal book.
And that is the point. This e-book helps you speak faster.
So, less translating, more talking.
Exactly. You read, you feel the structure, then you use it yourself.
That is really the big problem for many.
Yes, this e-book helps. It gives you ready lines for daily life.
That saves so much time in my head.
Absolutely. You don't need to build every sentence new. You have examples,
Okay, now I see why it is so valuable.
and you can find the ebook easily in the comments.
Very good. Then our listeners can start at once.
Exactly. If you use it often, you will see your English gets smoother.
And you think less.
Exactly. And that is our goal.
Peter, I want to be honest. All this sounds logical, but I still have doubts, and I think many people in our community feel the same. Many write to us, "I need my native language. Without translating, it doesn't work."
That is a very important point. And I am glad you mention it. Many learners really have this fear.
Yes, I know that feeling. When I don't translate, I sometimes feel I say something wrong or not exact.
Exactly. Many think if I don't translate, I lose control. But in reality, something different happens. You gain freedom.
Freedom?
Yes. When you stop translating, you speak more directly. You think less and react faster. That makes talks feel natural.
But what if I make mistakes?
You will make mistakes. That is normal. Everyone makes mistakes. But mistakes are not a problem. They are a part of learning.
I think many fear that other people will not understand them.
That is true. But usually this fear is bigger than the real problem. In real life, most people understand you, even if your sentence is not perfect.
That calms me a bit.
And I see this very often.
So perfection is not important.
Right, the important thing is that you speak.
Many in our community also say, "I know the words, but I cannot speak."
That is a classic problem. These people often translate in their head. They know many words, but they never use them actively.
Yes, I hear that very often.
That is why the most important step is start speaking, even if it is simple.
Even if it feels strange.
Especially then, at first it feels unusual, but after a short time it gets better.
I remember my first conversations. I was very nervous.
Then how was it then?
It was not perfect, but it worked. Afterwards, I was very proud.
Exactly. These small successes are very important.
So, less fear, more speaking.
Exactly. Remember, you don't need to be perfect. You only need to begin.
I think many people need to hear that.
Absolutely. We will say it again. You don't need perfect language. You need courage.
That is a good view.
And with that, you can really make progress. Good, Penelope. Now we do something practical. We act a small daily scene. Imagine we meet in a cafe and talk about our day. Important. We use simple sentences and we do not translate in our head.
That is good. This way our listeners hear how a real talk sounds.
Exactly. Then let's start.
Hello, Peter. Nice to see you.
Hello, Penelope. Nice to see you. How are you?
I am fine, thanks. And you?
Also fine. I worked a lot today.
Ah, what did you do?
I wrote emails this morning. After that, I had a meeting.
Sounds like a full day.
Yes, a bit. And you?
I stayed at home today. I studied and read a bit.
What did you read?
A small book in English. It is not hard, but very interesting.
That sounds good. Do you read every day?
Yes, I try to read a bit each day.
That is a very good idea.
And I also spoke English today.
Really? With whom?
With a friend. We had coffee together.
Very good. How was the talk?
It was good. I was a bit nervous at first, but then it became easier.
That is completely normal.
Yes, I use simple sentences.
That is exactly important.
I did not think much. I just spoke.
Perfect. That is how it should be.
And I noticed that I do not need to translate everything.
Very good. Did you understand everything?
Not everything, but most of it.
That is totally okay.
I think that is a good way.
Absolutely. Small talks in daily life are perfect for practice.
Yes, and it is also fun.
Exactly. Language should be fun.
I have a question. What else can I do?
You can have small talks every day, for example, in the shop or at work.
Even short talks?
Yes, short talks are perfect. For example, hello, how are you? Or thanks.
That is easy.
Exactly. And with time, your sentences will get longer.
I feel I am already more confident.
That is a very good sign.
I think our listeners can do this too.
Of course, everyone can start like this.
So, just speak. Do not translate.
Exactly, that is the key.
The talk helped me a lot.
I am happy to hear that.
Then let's keep practicing.
Very gladly. Before we finish, I want to give you some concrete tips. These tips are simple but very effective. You can use them in daily life right away.
That is great. I think many people look for exactly such practical ideas.
The first tip is, think in English for a few minutes each day. You do not need long practice. 5 minutes are enough. Look around and name simple things in your head. For example, I'm at home, or I drink coffee.
You can really do that everywhere.
Exactly. On the bus, while walking, or at home.
And you need no extra time.
Right. The second tip is, speak out loud. Many people learn only in their head, but speaking is very important. You can say easy sentences aloud even when you are alone.
That may feel strange at first.
Yes, but it helps a lot. When you speak loudly, you train your mouth and your brain.
Okay, I will try that.
The third tip is, use simple standard lines. Lines like, I am going now, or I do that, can be used every day.
So always the same structures again.
Exactly. That means you think less.
That makes speaking easier.
The fourth tip is, do not fear mistakes. Mistakes are normal. When you speak, you learn.
That is an important point.
And the last tip, make English a part of your life. Listen to podcasts, watch videos, or talk with others.
So English every day a little bit.
Exactly. Small steps each day bring big progress.
That sounds very motivating.
And it really works. Well, Penelope, we are at the end of today's episode. Today we spoke about talking in English without translating. We saw that many learners have this problem, but there is a solution.
Exactly. I learned today that we do not need perfect speech. It is more important to speak and not think too much.
Absolutely. Simple sentences are the key. When you use short, clear lines, you can answer faster and speak more naturally.
We also saw that you can think in English step by step. First words, then small sentences, then full talks.
Right. Another big point was, mistakes are okay. Do not fear them. Each mistake helps you improve.
I think many listeners need to hear that.
Yes, so we say it again. You do not need perfection. You only need to start speaking.
And the best way is to practice a little every day.
Exactly. Small steps make a big difference.
Dear listeners, now we are curious. Have you tried to speak without translating?
Or do you still often translate in your head?
Write to us in the comments. We enjoy reading your answers.
And tell us which topics you want to hear in the future.
Maybe you want more about daily conversations.
Or about common mistakes when learning English.
If you liked this episode, please subscribe or give us a like.
That helps us a lot and motivates us to make more episodes.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
We look forward to the next episode with you.
Good luck with your English learning.
See you soon.
Bye.
Goodbye.